At 81, Charles thought he was making the safest choice of his life. A decision that would give his children peace of mind. A decision that promised him comfort, care, and community. But looking back now, he whispers the same words to anyone who will listen. I should have stayed home. I lost more than I expected. You see, most seniors don't plan to end their days in a nursing home. It just happens. A hospital stay turns into rehab. Rehab turns into a long-term stay. Family visits dwindle. Independence fades. And by the time you realize what's missing, it's already gone. Your routines. Your peace. Your sense of you. If you're over 60 and thinking about long-term care, or if your loved ones are gently suggesting maybe it's time, you need to hear this. These 6 truths are not about scaring you. They're about preparing you. Because once the decision is made, it's hard to go back. Before we go deeper, if you find value in stories like this, real stories, from the elderly themselves, filled with senior wisdom, motivation, and life lessons, consider liking and subscribing. Your support helps us keep sharing the voices that matter. First, losing my independence wasn't immediate, but it was inevitable. Charles didn't notice it the first week. He still woke up at 7, brewed a small cup of coffee, and tried to read his morning newspaper, the one his daughter dropped off during visits. But small things began to shift. Breakfast is in the dining hall at 8. Can't go outside alone, liability reasons. Showers on Tuesdays and Fridays. Staff will assist. At first, it felt like structure. Soon, it felt like surveillance. The worst part? He stopped choosing. When to wake. What to wear. When to sit alone. When to go for a walk. I used to decide what my day looked like, Charles said. Now, I follow a schedule someone else made. I'm not sick. I'm not helpless. But the system assumes I am. This is what many don't see from the outside. A nursing home isn't a prison. But it isn't your home, either. And for the elderly, who still value routine, independence, and quiet dignity, losing those little freedoms can feel like losing yourself. Second, you might be surrounded by people and still feel forgotten. For the first month, Charles's family visited twice a week. His granddaughter brought cookies. His son joked about the food. But life, as always, moved on. Phone calls replaced visits. Then silence replaced the calls. I'd sit by the window at 4 p.m., waiting for the familiar sound of a car in the driveway. He said. Most days, it never came. And this is a common story in many homes. Families mean well. But busy schedules, long commutes, and a dangerous assumption, they're fine, slowly pull them away. Meanwhile, inside, seniors wait. They watch birthdays come and go. They see other residents decline. And worst of all, they feel invisible. This emotional decline, this slow fade from someone's world, hurts more than any physical discomfort. It is one of the quietest, deepest wounds of aging. And it's why some seniors in nursing homes speak less and sleep more. Not out of weakness, but out of sadness. Third, when purpose disappears, so does strength. Charles once tended a garden with pride. Roses, tomatoes, basil, he called them his silent friends. Each morning, he'd water them, clip the dry stems, whisper things to them he wouldn't say to anyone else. After moving into the nursing home, the garden was gone. So was the watering can. So was the need to get up early. No plants. No cooking. No chores. I thought it would be relaxing. But I didn't realize how much I needed those small tasks to feel alive. And that's the truth no brochure tells you. When everything is done for you, you stop feeling needed. You stop doing. And slowly, you stop being. Other residents felt it too. Like Mr. Grant, 85, who used to fix clocks in his garage. Here, there were no clocks to fix. Only time to kill. Purpose isn't just a feeling. It keeps the brain sharp. It keeps the muscles moving. Lose purpose, and your spirit begins to wilt, just like an untended plant. Fourth, my health declined faster than it should have. Charles was mobile when he moved in. Walked without assistance. Carried his own meals. Took stairs slowly, but steadily. After 4 months, he used a walker. By month 8, a wheelchair waited near his bed, just in case. But there was no fall. No diagnosis. No illness. Just less movement. Less use. Less reason to get up. This is the paradox of nursing homes. They make life easier, but easier isn't always better. Because when you stop standing, you start sitting longer. When you stop walking, your legs forget how. When you're always helped, you slowly lose the strength to help yourself. Research backs this. Studies show that seniors in institutional care lose mobility faster than those who remain active in their own homes or communities. Not from age, but from inactivity. Fifth, privacy is a memory, not a right. Sharing a room with someone you didn't choose. Staff walking in without knocking, even if they mean well. Bathroom doors that don't always lock. Shower times that come with company. Charles was once a proud man. Reserved. Private. But after just 1 month, he said he no longer expected privacy. Only moments of it. And what surprised him most wasn't the lack of space. It was the constant observation. Are you eating enough? Do you need help dressing? Don't forget your meds. It felt caring, until it felt intrusive. Until the questions became routines. Until he became a routine. You lose the small dignity of just being left alone, he said. And when you've lived a full life, built a family, survived wars, paid off a mortgage, having someone ask if you wiped properly feels like a slap. Sixth, once you're in, getting out feels impossible. Charles didn't plan to stay. He told his daughter, just for a few weeks, until my knee feels better. That was 3 years ago. And this is a truth few talk about. Leaving a nursing home is hard. Not legally, but practically. Once you settle in, everything is structured. Your medications, your meals, your records, all are tied to the facility. And if your strength declines while inside, your ability to go back to living independently shrinks with it. So many seniors stay not because they want to, but because leaving feels harder than staying. And that's where regret grows. Not all at once, but slowly, like a shadow that stretches further each year. Seventh, the constant noise and the strange silence. You'd think a place filled with people would be lively. But Charles described it best. The nursing home is both too loud and too quiet. The noise? Buzzers. Intercoms. Televisions playing shows no one watches. Residents calling out for help, sometimes confused, sometimes afraid. Footsteps outside your door at all hours. Doors opening and closing. Staff chatting loudly during shift change, trying to stay cheerful in a place where sadness often lingers. But the silence? That's what cuts deeper. No laughter echoing from the kitchen. No children running down the hall. No late-night conversations. Just a kind of stillness that feels like waiting. Waiting for meals. Waiting for visits. Waiting for time to pass. That kind of silence weighs on the heart. It dulls the senses. And over time, it teaches you to expect less from the world outside. Eighth, you're treated like a patient, even when you're not sick. Charles was 81, not 101. He wasn't bedridden, confused, or unable to make decisions. But once he entered the system, that didn't seem to matter. You're spoken to slowly, like a child. You're offered help before you ask for it. And if you decline, they worry something's wrong with you. It's subtle at first. A nurse correcting how you take your pills. A caregiver brushing crumbs off your shirt without asking. A therapist recommending activities meant for people far more impaired than you. Before long, you begin to internalize it. You stop insisting you're capable. You let others choose for you what to wear, when to eat, what to watch. You fade into the role they've made for you. A passive observer of your own life. And that's the danger. Because when you stop being treated like an adult, you start feeling like less of one. This isn't about blame. Most caregivers mean well. But the system is built for convenience, not individuality. 9th, you start to see death differently, and more often. In the real world, death feels rare. In nursing homes, it's routine. One day the woman down the hall is sitting at her window. The next, her room is empty and cleaned. No one talks about it. Sometimes there's a name on a bulletin board, a soft condolence. But mostly, silence. Charles told of a man named Edwin, who sat across from him at dinner. Every night they'd chat, not about anything deep, just old songs, weather, memories of fishing trips. Then, one night, Edwin wasn't there. And he never came back. People don't make a big deal out of it, Charles said. They just lower their eyes and go back to eating. You don't fear death in the same way after months or years in a home. You see it coming. You hear its rhythm. You watch it move slowly, patient and certain, through the hallways. And maybe that's part of the regret too, that your final years are spent so close to endings. And so far from beginnings. 10th. The emotional decline is often worse than the physical. People worry about broken hips, strokes, blood pressure. But what about heartbreak? What about boredom? What about the slow erosion of joy? Charles wasn't clinically depressed. He still smiled. Still greeted the staff. Still read his books. But the spark was gone. He described it like this. It's not that I want to die. It's just that nothing excites me anymore. And this is something science now understands deeply, that emotional well-being in the elderly is just as critical as physical health. Studies on senior health show that chronic loneliness and lack of stimulation are directly linked to cognitive decline, increased mortality, and even weakened immunity. But in many facilities, the emotional needs of residents are an afterthought. Scheduled bingo games, craft hour, TV news playing in the background. Where's the soul in that? Charles used to attend book clubs, play chess with his neighbor, go to the farmer's market every Saturday. Now, his greatest activity was walking to the mailbox. Only there was no mailbox. Just a front desk with pre-sorted mail. 11th. It's easy to stop dreaming. What do you look forward to when every day is the same? That's a question Charles asked quietly one afternoon, staring out a window. Not angrily. Not even sadly. Just, honestly. And that's one of the quietest truths of life inside a nursing home. The future becomes small. There are no trips to plan. No big projects. No new things to try. Only routines. Breakfast. Vitals check. Lunch. TV. Dinner. Sleep. The tragedy isn't just in the monotony, it's in the loss of possibility. Humans, even in their 80s and 90s, need something to look forward to. A visit. A letter. A new book. A reason to put on cologne. Take that away, and life becomes maintenance, not experience. That's what Charles mourned most. Not his youth. Not his house. But his sense of tomorrow. 12th. You start feeling like a burden, even when no one says it. No one told Charles he was a burden. Not his daughter. Not the staff. Not the system. But he felt it. In their voices. In their sighs. In the way his family visited only on holidays, and how they left quickly. It's not that they're cruel. He said. They just have lives now. And I don't fit into them the same way. This is something many seniors feel deeply but rarely express. A quiet guilt. A hesitation to ask for help. A shame in needing care, even when it's deserved. That guilt becomes internalized. You stop calling. You say I'm fine even when you're not. You smile during visits, pretending not to notice when someone checks their phone. No one has to say it out loud. You just know. You become someone they check in on, not someone they share life with. 13th. You lose the right to decide what's good enough. One evening, Charles asked for a different meal, just toast and eggs, something simple. The caregiver said, "That's not on tonight's menu, mister." Charles. He asked if he could bring in his own shampoo. They said no, it might not meet our safety standards. He wanted to rearrange the pictures on his wall. It was discouraged, we have a standard layout. Little by little, even your preferences become optional. And this is the final regret, not that you live with rules, but that your opinion matters less and less. Your life becomes managed, not lived. Charles's story isn't unique. It echoes through the voices of thousands of seniors, quietly living in homes that promise care, but deliver something colder. Routine. Safety. Survival. But not always dignity. Not always meaning. Not always elderly reflections or elderly wisdom passed on with pride. If you're watching this, not just for yourself, but for your aging parent, your partner, your future, take a moment. Think carefully. Ask more questions. Visit more than once. And listen, really listen, to what your heart tells you when you step into that facility. Sometimes, staying at home with the right support isn't just possible, it's better. 14th. Not all care feels caring. Charles once described it like this. They make sure I take my pills, but they don't ask what makes me smile. This is the uncomfortable truth. In many nursing homes, care becomes clinical. Vitals, charts, medications, hygiene. But the soul? Often forgotten. The staff were kind, yes. But busy. Overworked. Burnt out. One aide might be responsible for 10 residents. Sometimes 15. You're not being ignored, but you're not really seen either. You become a task. Turn Mr. Charles. Help him shower. Did he eat today? But no one asks. Did he feel joy? Did anyone sit and talk with him for more than 2 minutes? Did he feel like a man today, not just a patient? This kind of invisible neglect doesn't leave bruises. But it leaves deep, silent wounds. Wounds that erode identity, confidence, and the quiet pride every senior deserves to keep. 15th. Your past begins to fade, because no one talks about it. At home, Charles had photo albums in every room. A shelf with trophies. A wall with his children's graduation pictures. Old records that reminded him of the first time he danced with his wife. In the nursing home, those pieces didn't come with him. There wasn't room. And even when he talked about his past, his years as a school principal, his time in the military, most people didn't listen long. Not because they were cruel. Because they were rushed. Busy. Uninterested. The staff didn't know his history. The new residents didn't ask. Slowly, Charles stopped telling stories. And with that silence, his past began to feel less real. We forget that for seniors, memory is more than nostalgia. It's identity. It's a reminder that they were someone, not just a name on a chart. When no one asks about who they were, they start to forget it too. And that's one of the greatest losses of all. 16th. You become surrounded by decline, and it changes you. It's not just your own health you watch fade. It's everyone around you. The woman who once chatted cheerfully at breakfast now barely speaks. The man who read the newspaper out loud can't see anymore. Your best friend in the home doesn't remember your name. Charles said it best. It's like watching time move backwards in everyone except the clock. This constant exposure to decline, it seeps in. You brace for the next fall, the next diagnosis, the next room left empty. And even if you're still strong, still aware, you start to expect deterioration. This expectation shapes how you move, how you talk, how you hope. You lose the will to fight for more. Because around you, more has already been taken. 17th. You stop being seen as a whole person. In the nursing home, Charles was room 216. Bed B. A man with arthritis, mild hypertension, and a history of insomnia. But he was also a father. A poet. A man who once climbed mountains and built furniture by hand. He had dreams once. And disappointments. And victories. None of that was on his file. He said, "They know my bowel schedule better than they know my favorite song." And that sums up the greatest regret of all, being reduced to your symptoms. Not your soul. Not your essence. This isn't intentional. It's the nature of systems built for efficiency. But we're not machines. We're human. And seniors? They carry decades of life. Elderly wisdom. Elderly reflections. Life lessons from the elderly. Yet often, no one asks them to share it. That silence is not just sad, it's a loss for all of us. 18th. You begin to wonder. What was it all for? This one is hard to admit. But Charles said it more than once. I worked hard. I was a good man. I raised a family. Paid my taxes. And now, I sit in a hallway, watching a clock that doesn't seem to move. This is the existential ache that many elderly feel but cannot express. The quiet question that comes late at night, when the lights are off and the world feels far away. Did it matter? And it's not that life didn't have value. It's that, here, in this setting, that value is no longer reflected. No one asks what you believe in. No one invites you to lead. No one treats you like someone with something to give. You're no longer the storyteller. You're the background character. And that changes how you see everything that came before. 19th. You realize. Peace doesn't live here. For all the promises of comfort and safety, what many nursing homes lack is peace. Peace isn't just a quiet room. It's feeling at home. It's choosing your own routine. It's not needing to explain why you're sad, or why you want to sit alone. Charles described peace as the freedom to be without justification. But in the nursing home, you're always justifying. Why you didn't eat. Why you don't want to join the activity. Why you're sitting in your room instead of going to bingo. There's always someone checking. Always someone correcting. Always someone suggesting what's best. That might keep you alive longer. But does it make life feel worth living? 20th. The greatest regret. Believing it was your only option. Charles didn't move in because he wanted to. He moved in because he thought he had to. His daughter couldn't care for him full-time. The bills were mounting. He had a fall, and the doctor said, "It's safer this way." But now, after years inside, he wonders. What if I had fought harder to stay home? What if I had asked for in-home care? What if I had adapted the house instead of leaving it? These are the questions that visit him at night. And this, truly, is the message he wants to pass on. You might have more choices than you think. Yes, nursing homes have their place. Some are better than others. Some residents are happy there. But don't assume it's the only answer. Ask more questions. Explore alternatives. Trust that your independence is worth fighting for. Because once it's gone, it rarely comes back. If this story resonated with you, not just as content, but as truth, we invite you to share it. Whether you're 60, 70, 80, or just someone who cares about your aging parents, this is the kind of reflection that changes lives. We all deserve a final chapter filled with dignity, purpose, and peace. Thank you for being here, and for listening to voices that are too often silenced. If you'd like to hear more life lessons from the elderly, senior health advice, and real elderly wisdom, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more. Your support helps bring these stories to life.